Tommy Norris is not coming back. He is not returning as the man who survived. He is not walking through that door as someone who simply made it out. He is coming back as something far more dangerous. A man who lost everything, studied every wound, mapped every mistake, and is now building something so precise, so calculated, so deliberately constructed that by the time Cami realizes what is happening, it will already be too late. This is not a comeback story. This is a takeover. And the most terrifying part about it is that Tommy is not rushing. He is not angry. He is not emotional. He is patient. He is focused. And he is building piece by piece, alliance by alliance, move by move, an empire designed for one singular purpose: to crush Cami Miller completely. There is a version of Tommy Norris that Cami Miller understood. She knew how to read him, how to anticipate him, how to use his vulnerabilities against him. She had seen him react. She had seen him absorb pressure and bend under the weight of circumstances that were never fully in his control. That version of Tommy was manageable. That version of Tommy was someone she could work around, outmaneuver, and ultimately contain. But season 3 opens with a Tommy Norris that Cami does not recognize. And that unfamiliarity is exactly what makes him so dangerous. Because the man standing in front of her now is not reacting to anything. He is initiating, he is constructing, he is building with the calm precision of someone who has already decided how this ends, and is simply executing the steps required to get there. That shift from reactive to proactive, from survivor to strategist, is the defining transformation of season 3. And it changes everything about how the story moves forward. What the show establishes early, and establishes with real clarity, is that Tommy did not emerge from the chaos of previous seasons simply relieved to still be standing. He emerged with information, with understanding, with a detailed mental map of every weakness in Cami's operation, every crack in her financial structure, every relationship she had neglected or damaged or taken for granted. While Cami was managing fires and maintaining appearances, Tommy was studying. He was identifying the exact pressure points that, when pushed at the right moment and in the right sequence, would cause her entire operation to begin collapsing from the inside. That is the foundation his new empire is built on. Not just capital, not just connections, but knowledge, precise, weaponized knowledge about exactly where Cami Miller is most exposed. Season 3 is careful about how it introduces this. The show does not announce Tommy's transformation through grand speeches or dramatic declarations. It shows it through behavior, through the way he sits in rooms, through the way he listens before he speaks, through the way he processes information and files it away without revealing what he intends to do with it. Early episodes present a Tommy who is almost unnervingly composed. Men who have been through what he has been through tend to carry visible damage. They tend to flinch, to overcompensate, to operate from a place of urgency rooted in fear. Tommy does none of that. He moves with the quiet confidence of someone who has already done the hard internal work, already processed the losses, and already converted every setback into a strategic lesson. He is not dragging his past with him. He is using it as a blueprint. And that blueprint is specific. Tommy understands that defeating Cami Miller is not simply a matter of accumulating more money or more influence than she has. It is a matter of building a structure she cannot infiltrate. An empire with enough redundancy, enough loyalty, and enough strategic depth that no single move she makes can destabilize it. This is the core insight that separates him from where he was in earlier seasons. Before, he was building reactively, shoring up whatever was crumbling in the moment, plugging gaps as they appeared. Now he is building architecturally. He has a design. He knows where every pillar needs to go. He knows which alliances need to be secured before others, which assets need to be positioned before the next phase can begin, which relationships need to be cultivated with patience before they can be activated as tools. Everything is sequenced. Everything is intentional, and that intentionality radiates from every scene he occupies. The people around Tommy begin to sense it too. There is something in the way he operates that inspires a particular kind of confidence in others. Not the loud, performative confidence of someone trying to convince the room they belong there. Something quieter, something more solid. The confidence of a man who has done the math and knows what the answer is. His inner circle, the people who have stayed close through the turbulence of earlier seasons, respond to this version of Tommy with a renewed sense of alignment. They are not following him out of habit or obligation. They are following him because his vision is clear. His strategy is credible, and his resolve is something they have never quite seen in him before. That combination, clear vision paired with unshakable resolve, is what transforms a man with resources into a man with an empire. Meanwhile, Cami is not sitting still. She is managing, she is maintaining, she is doing what she has always done with remarkable competence, which is hold her operation together under pressure. But the nature of her effort is fundamentally different from Tommy's. She is reactive. She is responding to legal pressures, to financial instability, to the slow erosion of trust among partners who are beginning to question whether MTEX is as solid as she has always insisted it is. She is fighting on multiple fronts simultaneously, and while she is more than capable enough to manage each individual challenge, the cumulative weight of all of them together is beginning to show. And Tommy knows this. He has watched her operation carefully enough to understand that her greatest vulnerability is not any single weakness. It is the fact that she is stretched, that she is managing too many problems at once to see the larger pattern forming around her. That larger pattern is Tommy's empire taking shape. And it is taking shape in a way that is almost invisible to her, because he is building it in spaces she is not watching, through relationships she has undervalued, and through moves that individually look modest but collectively represent a systematic encirclement of everything she controls. By the time the first few episodes of Season 3 have settled, the audience already understands something that Cami has not yet fully grasped. Tommy Norris is not trying to survive her. He is building something specifically designed to bury her, and he is doing it with the patience, the precision, and the cold strategic clarity of a man who has decided that this time there will be no mistakes. Building an empire is not a single decision. It is 1,000 decisions made in the right order, at the right time, with the right people. And what Season 3 makes abundantly clear is that Tommy Norris understands this at a level that most of the people around him do not. He is not simply acquiring assets and calling it growth. He is constructing something with deliberate architecture, something with load-bearing pillars and strategic depth, something designed not just to stand but to withstand. Because Tommy knows that whatever he builds will be tested. Cami Miller will find it, probe it, and push against it with everything she has. And when that moment comes, he needs what he has built to hold. Not just hold, to push back harder than anything she can bring against it. The first layer of that architecture is financial. Tommy moves through the early episodes of Season 3 with a clarity of financial purpose that is almost surgical. He is not making investments the way a man trying to grow wealth makes investments. He is making investments the way a general positions troops. Every acquisition is placed with strategic intent. Every partnership is evaluated not just for its immediate return, but for its positional value in the larger structure he is assembling. Real estate, energy, assets, operational infrastructure. Each of these moves is calculated to consolidate his footprint in spaces that directly overlap with Cami's territory. He is not building beside her. He is building around her, and the distinction matters enormously, because building around someone is not growth. It is the slow, methodical process of reducing the space available to your opponent until the only moves left to them are the ones you have already prepared for. But Tommy understands something that purely financial thinkers often miss. Capital alone does not build an empire. Capital builds a balance sheet. What transforms a balance sheet into an empire is people. The right people, aligned to the right vision, operating with the right level of trust and commitment. And so alongside every financial move Tommy makes in Season 3, there is a corresponding human move. A conversation, a recruitment, a carefully extended hand to someone who has been watching Cami's operation with growing unease and is now open to a different kind of alignment. Tommy identifies these people with remarkable precision. He is not casting a wide net and hoping for quantity. He is selecting with intention, looking for specific qualities in the people he brings into his orbit: loyalty, competence, and most critically, a reason to be done with Cami Miller. That last quality is more available than it might initially appear, because Cami, for all her capability, has a pattern. She extracts value from relationships and returns less than she takes. She makes promises that are technically kept but structurally hollow. She maintains partnerships through leverage more than through genuine alignment. And the people on the receiving end of that approach know the difference, even when they do not say it out loud. Tommy knows it too. He has experienced it personally. And he uses that knowledge to locate the fault lines in her network. The relationships that are held together by obligation rather than conviction. The partners who would redirect their loyalty the moment a more credible alternative presented itself. He does not try to poach everyone in her circle. He targets the specific individuals whose defection will create the maximum structural damage to her operation while simultaneously adding the maximum strategic value to his own. The show portrays this recruitment process with real subtlety. These are not scenes of dramatic betrayal or loud confrontation. They are quiet conversations in unremarkable settings. A lunch that looks casual but is anything but. A meeting that is framed as an introduction but is actually a carefully constructed audition. Tommy presents himself in these moments not as someone offering an escape from Cami, but as someone offering something genuinely better. A cleaner structure, a clearer vision, a leadership style rooted in trust rather than leverage. He is not selling desperation. He is selling conviction. And conviction, when it is real, when it is backed by a credible plan and a track record of strategic intelligence, is extraordinarily persuasive to people who have been operating inside a system that runs on fear and obligation. What begins to take shape by the midpoint of Section 2's narrative arc is something that can only be described as a shadow organization. Tommy's empire, viewed from the outside, looks like a collection of independent business interests and loosely affiliated partnerships. But viewed from the inside, from the perspective of those who are part of it, it is a coherent, coordinated structure with a single strategic center. Tommy is that center. Every thread connects back to him. Every move is informed by his overall design. And the beauty of its construction, from a strategic standpoint, is that it does not look like what it is. It looks like organic growth. It looks like a businessman expanding his interests in a natural and unremarkable way, which means Cami, even as she begins to sense that something is shifting in the landscape around her, cannot yet see the full shape of what is being built. That invisibility is not accidental. Tommy has engineered it deliberately. He understands at the moment Cami fully comprehends what he is assembling, she will move against it with everything at her disposal. And so he has structured his empire to reveal itself slowly, in pieces, in ways that individually seem manageable to her but collectively represent something she cannot stop once she finally sees it whole. Each move is designed to look like one thing while being another. Each alliance is presented to the outside world in terms that obscure its true strategic purpose. Tommy is playing a game of visible modesty and invisible ambition. And he is playing it with a discipline that is genuinely remarkable given everything he has been through. The show reinforces this through the contrast it draws between Tommy's building process and Cami's management process. While Tommy is constructing, Cami is maintaining. While he is adding new pillars to his structure, she is repairing existing cracks in hers. The asymmetry of their efforts is the quiet engine driving the season's tension. She is spending energy to stay in place. He is spending energy to move forward. And in any prolonged contest between those two postures, the outcome is not a matter of if. It is only a matter of when. Season 3 understands this and uses it to build a pressure that accumulates with every episode, every scene. Every quiet strategic move Tommy makes while Cami fights fires on fronts that are increasingly fronts he has opened deliberately to keep her attention divided and her resources stretched. Because that is the other dimension of Tommy's architecture that the show captures with particular intelligence. He is not just building his own empire. He is simultaneously, through careful and indirect means, accelerating the erosion of hers. Every resource Cami spends managing a problem is a resource she cannot direct toward, identifying and countering Tommy's moves. Every relationship that strains under the pressure of her financial instability is a relationship that becomes more available to him. Every legal challenge she faces pulls her focus inward at exactly the moment she needs to be looking outward. Tommy has not manufactured all of these pressures from scratch, but he has identified which existing pressures to amplify, which tensions to quietly encourage, and which vulnerabilities to leave visible so that other parties, regulators, competitors, disaffected partners, do the work of applying pressure on his behalf while he continues building undisturbed. This is what makes his strategy so formidable, and what Season 3 captures so effectively. Tommy is not fighting Cami, he is architecting her defeat. There is a fundamental difference between those two things. Fighting is direct, visible, and exhausting. Architecting is indirect, patient, and cumulative. And by the time the full architecture is visible, by the time Cami can see the complete shape of what Tommy has built around her, dismantling it will require more than she has left to give. That is the empire Tommy Norris is constructing in Season 3. Not a monument to his own success. a mechanism specifically engineered to end hers. There is a particular kind of dread that comes not from a single catastrophic event, but from the slow, suffocating realization that everything around you is tightening, that the space you once moved through freely is shrinking, that the relationships you relied on are quietly shifting their weight towards something else, that the ground beneath your operation, which once felt solid and permanent, is developing fractures so fine they are almost invisible until the moment they are not. This is the experience of Cami Miller in the middle stretch of season 3. And what makes it so compelling to watch is that she cannot point to a single cause. She cannot identify a single enemy action to respond to, because Tommy has engineered it this way. The pressure she is feeling does not have one source. It has 100 sources, each one modest on its own, each one manageable in isolation, but together forming a weight that is becoming genuinely difficult to carry. Season 3 is masterful in how it constructs this phase of the narrative. The show does not hand the audience dramatic confrontations or loud declarations of war. Instead, it builds tension through accumulation, through the small moments that individually seem like ordinary business friction but collectively tell a different story. A partner who is reliably present at meetings begins finding reasons to be elsewhere. A financial arrangement that has functioned smoothly for years suddenly requires renegotiation on terms less favorable to Cami than before. A regulatory inquiry that seemed routine begins asking questions that are anything but routine. None of these things, taken alone, would alarm a woman of Cami's experience and capability. But taken together, in the sequence they are arriving, they begin to form a pattern. And Cami is smart enough to recognize patterns. What she cannot yet determine is who is drawing the pattern and why Tommy is drawing it. Every line of it, with the careful hand of someone who has planned this phase as thoroughly as he planned the construction phase that preceded it. Because building the empire was only half the strategy. The other half is using it not through direct confrontation, not yet, but through the application of indirect pressure at precisely calibrated intervals. Tommy understands something about power that purely aggressive people never learn. Direct attacks invite direct responses. They clarify the battlefield and give the opponent something concrete to push back against. But indirect pressure that arrives from multiple directions simultaneously, pressure that is difficult to source and therefore difficult to counter, that kind of pressure does something far more damaging than a direct attack ever could. It creates doubt. It creates paranoia. It forces the target to spend enormous energy trying to identify the threat rather than neutralizing it. And energy spent on identification is energy not spent on defense. Cami begins to feel this acutely as season 3 progresses. The show portrays her response with real intelligence. She is not panicking. She is not collapsing. She is doing what she has always done, which is bringing formidable competence to bear on each individual problem as it presents itself. But the show lets the audience see what Cami cannot fully see from inside her own situation, which is that her competence, however real and however impressive, is being systematically redirected. Every fire she puts out has been lit by design. Every problem she solves is replaced by 2 more. She is running faster and faster on a track that Tommy has designed specifically to exhaust her without ever giving her a clear opponent to face. The psychological sophistication of this approach is staggering, and season 3 gives it the screen time it deserves, allowing the audience to sit with the tension of watching someone exceptional, being outmaneuvered not through inferior ability but through superior architecture. The human dimension of this pressure campaign is where season 3 becomes genuinely gripping, because the erosion of Cami's empire is not just financial and operational, it is personal. The people she has relied on, the inner circle she has cultivated and maintained through a combination of genuine leadership and strategic leverage, are beginning to feel the pull of Tommy's alternative. Not all of them, not dramatically or all at once, but enough of them, and in ways subtle enough that the cohesion of her operation is developing gaps. A trusted advisor begins hedging their counsel in ways that protect their own interests rather than hers. A partner who has always been fully aligned starts asking questions that reveal they are considering other options. A key relationship that she believed was locked in by mutual interest turns out to have been held in place, more by habit than by genuine commitment. And habits break when better alternatives present themselves. Tommy has cultivated every one of these alternative relationships with patience and precision. He has not rushed any of them. He has not applied obvious pressure or made crude appeals. He has simply been present, credible, and consistent. He has shown these people through his actions rather than his words. that he represents stability, vision, and leadership of a fundamentally different quality than what they have been operating under. And one by one, quietly and without spectacle, the needle of their loyalty has begun shifting in his direction. Not because he demanded it, because he earned it, because he built something real enough and credible enough that choosing it over Cami's operation began to feel less like a risk and more like an obvious decision. The show captures the psychological warfare dimension of this phase with particular subtlety. Tommy is not just applying material pressure, he is applying psychological pressure, and he is doing it in a way that is almost impossible to defend against because it operates below the threshold of direct provocation. He is visible enough in the market to signal that he is building something significant, but not so visible that Cami can point to him as the cause of her difficulties without looking paranoid. He attends the right events. He has the right conversations in the right rooms. He allows the right information to travel through the right networks, information about his growing empire, his new alliances, his expanding influence, information that reaches Cami not through direct communication, but through the ambient noise of the business world they both operate in, and that ambient noise does something precise and intended to Cami's psychology. It forces her to think about Tommy constantly without giving her anything concrete to act on. She knows he is out there. She knows he is building. She knows that what he is building is pointed at her, but she cannot see it clearly enough to move against it directly. And so she is left in the most uncomfortable position a strategist can occupy. Knowing a threat exists but being unable to engage it on her own terms. Being forced to wait for it to reveal itself while it continues growing in the shadows. This is Tommy's most powerful weapon in the middle stretch of Season 3. Not his assets. Not his alliances. His patience. His willingness to let the pressure build at its own pace. To resist the temptation of premature confrontation. To trust that the architecture he has built will do the work if he gives it enough time. Meanwhile, the audience watches with the particular tension that comes from dramatic irony. We can see both sides of the board simultaneously. We know what Tommy is building and why. We know which moves are his even when they arrive through intermediaries and indirect channels. And we watch Cami respond to a threat she can feel but cannot fully see, bringing her considerable intelligence to bear on a problem that has been deliberately designed to resist her intelligence. The collision of those two dynamics, Tommy's patient construction and Cami's increasingly pressured management, creates a narrative tension that tightens with every episode. Every scene between them, even the scenes where they do not share the same physical space, carries the weight of everything that is building beneath the surface. And by the end of this phase of the season, both the characters and the audience understand the same thing. The pressure has been building long enough. The architecture is complete enough. The moment of direct confrontation is no longer a distant possibility. It is an approaching certainty, and when it arrives, it will not be a collision of equals, meeting in the middle. It will be a reckoning that Tommy Norris has been engineering from the very first episode, arriving exactly on schedule, exactly as designed.